Okay. Chapter 3. Atla's incandescent sunrise peeked over the aptly titled Guardian Mountains, the infamous Parlous Range skirting cultivator Xanadu, imperceptibly ascending into a moderately clear dawn. Its soft brilliance draped the beautiful expanse with a golden blanket woven of young light, speckled with shaded patches by sparse trees and homes. Rays shining betwixt branches and leaves cast beams onto thin, early morning mist, faintly painting the air with vaporous color. Agreeable temperature for the hour, lounging in still air portended a comfortably warm day. Paranoid that James' magical expertise could intervene against her disobedience even if spotted at a great distance, Kylene sprinted northward at full speed. Not until home's roof sunk beneath the horizon did slowing to a jog feel safe, which persisted for several minutes until reducing into a brisk walk. Morning hunger decreed when to pause for breakfast. Nesting upon healthily springy blades of strikingly vibrant grass, she unraveled the dully brown sack containing her rations. A broad assortment of haphazardly snatched foodstuffs, time had discouraged adequate planning of what specifically to pack. Running had considerably blended the melange, concocting a brackish hodgepodge. Such a distasteful mess warranted frowning, but didn't deter ingestion. She'd been taught to never waste edibles for such petty reasons, for on the road one never knows when their next meal may be provided. Besides that, Heatsa's domain resided distant still, and Kylene knew she needed to stockpile every ounce of available calories for the upcoming confrontation. Hardly a delicacy to wolf down, the meal did satisfyingly taste better than the sloppy appearance of soggy and bruised items implied. When done, she wrung the sack, wadded it up, and stuffed it into one of her poncho's backside pockets, then briskly resumed the pleasant journey. Because no one would mind, she swiped a smattering of tiny edibles from properties along the way. One early bird even spared a moment from hoeing to wave with a smile as she plucked a tomato from his garden. Predominance favored humanitarianism over materialism to the kind-hearted folks of cultivator Xanadu, and the population's majority tended to grow supererogatory quantities anyway. Importance regarding ownership typically only pertained directly to land and home. Kylene spent approximately half the day reaching her destination. Fortunately, its precise location, well beyond the northernmost farmlands, had been previously memorized. A conspicuously crimson stone, half buried and enchanted, sealed the way. Elementals disdained subpar challengers. Such people neither had a prayer for success nor substantialities purveyed. Therefore, the sanctioned chimeras denied entry to individuals lacking qualifying attributes of properly raised wizards. Kylene's right hand cupped over the stuck rock, then she dropped herself into a meditative state of focus, drawing from her mana heart a single pulse that rippled down her arm to proffer an easy specimen for the steel to judge. Such a minute sample would suffice. Sophisticated measuring could accurately ascertain an aspirant's magical mastery from the tiniest speck, helping entrants avoid exhausting their stamina when opening the front door, as surrendering large quantities prematurely would be undesirable for both parties. Brief calmness was suddenly rattled by rumbling, quaking earth. Kylene stumbled backwards from the small stone as several singed streaks dispatched along the grass, rapidly sketching an intricate magic circle nearly 8 meters in diameter, bordered with cursive English runes repeatedly reading, "Herein lies Heatsa, elemental of fire. Venture forth, O brave wizard, wielding unrelenting of strength to rightfully earn that which you deserve." Godia's general populace shared a total illiteracy of the archaic tongues. As part of erasing the abandoned languages of Earth from the minds of the masses, Humanian also replaced old letters with new symbols. Being neither scholar, historian, nor devout enthusiast of lingual arts, Kylene misinterpreted the writing as meaningless scribbles sandwiched in the circle's outermost layer. Guided by the fancy tapestry of narrow burn lines, fissures loudly split the ground, giving rise to a misshapen formation of stone and dirt topped with grass, placed neatly within that outermost edge housing the unreadable text. Quaking lasted until the rugged gibbosity stood at over 3 meters tall, about half a minute. An explosive blaze spontaneously ignited and extinguished in a flash, rupturing the southern side without spraying a single rock. In its wake, a hollow contained a stairwell heading deep underground. Beyond sunlight's reach, the smooth staircase submerged into 500 yards of darkness. After peering inside a moment with astonishment over what she just witnessed, Kylene tread analytically to familiarize with the stair layout ere losing visibility. When that happened, palms ran against the rugged walls, and bare feet tardily dragged to cautiously discern every step. Several minutes' uncertainty of the staircase's end induced suffocating, heart-pounding anxiety that thudded in her ears. Acknowledgement that one erroneous step could be fatal logically inhibited hastening the pace. At the end of what seemed like a half-hour descent awaited a small chamber. When nearly upon it, the undisturbed darkness was pierced by a large double door that's metal glowed faintly scarlet. Light that was strangely not visible from further up, nor was it obstructed by obstacles. It appeared suddenly, welcoming the visitor's arrival. Kylene carefully approached the door, slowly sliding her footpads along the rough ground to ensure a clear route. Inadequate illumination barely revealed the most adjacent vicinity, disallowing depending on even nocturnal vision to spot hidden traps, should there be any as some form of preliminary test. Beguiling warmth belied the door's real temperature. When touched, blistering heat instantly stimulated a jolting, yelping withdrawal. The burn, devoid of long-term damage, stung for over a minute with a distinct differentiation from natural heat, a magical tingle which inspired an idea. Kylene held both hands to the left side door, her pads brushing the edge of the immense heat's short reach. Into the manises, particles of magic amassed from her arms until faintly radiating a white, translucent glow. Soon as she felt it ready, caution neared the eerily effulgent gate. The magical essences of herself and that heat repelled each other like opposing magnets, forming a protective buffer. While an inconsequential percentage of focus maintained magic's integrity, physical muscles heaved the hefty door forward. High-pitched screeches from metal hinges sharply assaulted sensitive ears. The gateway entered into a tremendously vast, volcanic cavern that's brightness caused slit, dilated pupils to shrink back. Every stone long since blackened by lava spewing from countless cracks and holes, snaking the ground and every wall, stalactite and stalagmite like hot blood coursing through external veins, while more dripped from the ceiling several tens of feet overhead. Even standing right outside the open doorway, not an ounce of heat touched Kylene's skin, a phenomenon which would have perplexed had she been ignorant in the history of magic associated with the elementals. The volcanic cavern beyond the doors actually existed in a different physical location than perceived, courtesy of spatial rifts scattered about for wizards to access the elemental domains from far and wide, created by the chimeras themselves in accordance to helping prevent distance from discouraging applicants from braving the trip. Teleportation magic that utilized theories similar to those which allowed wizards who have earned the recognition to summon elemental power from anywhere, but on a much grander scale for transporting living beings seamlessly across vast distances. Nature's deadly magnificence, unlike anything she's ever witnessed, intimidated with awestruck amazement and fear. Not even accounting for fighting the unfathomably powerful monster inside, simply entering the merciless arena meant that one misstep could equal incapacitation or death. Neither textbook nor lesson of any kind even hinted at the unexpected threat her psyche hadn't prepared to confront. Frozen, Kylene goggled as reality bombarded her with fearful peril that brought bravery into question. Fur stood on end, her heart raced, pumping chilling blood into limbs that trembled, heavy as lead as joints were reluctant to press onward. Retreat was no longer an option. Kylene swallowed a lump of terror in her throat, clearing the nervous passageway to repress rising concern. Having come this far, determination was set on promoting her lifelong dream to the next level. She fixated on that source of courage, calming her nerves to walk forward. Even so, legs trembled taking that first step through the warp, introducing the right limb to broiling heat by crossing that threshold. Each subsequent step proceeded with extreme caution, vigilance divided between heeding the precarious ground and every deadly droplet from above. Advancing became easier as emotional bearings stabilized, but the constant dangers necessitated she maintain that unerring caution at every second, with eyes that were persistently irritated by aridity. Grumbling thunder periodically reverberated the cavern, each time rippling lava and causing panic that the baneful ooze may dribble down along with the loosened grit. Initially, Kylene believed it magma gushing within the earth, but as its volume amplified, it more closely resembled an indiscernible monster roaring from all directions. Progress halted on passable footing a couple dozen feet from the entrance. There, she listened with cautious readiness, becoming uneasy when unable to pinpoint the roaring source, even as it got closer. Her ears had never before failed her like that. While hearing tried in vain to detect the incoming unknown's precise position, eyes prudently scanned her proximity for safe spots within lunging range in case sudden danger required hasty evasion. One final roar boomed as if pressed directly against the wall. Then silence so empty she heard only the nervousness of her own heart and lungs penetrating the eerie atmosphere. Even the lava went quiescent, no longer bubbling, nor dripping, nor flowing down vertical cracks. It clung in place like dried mortar, still glowing red-hot. Kylene focused on regulating imperturbable composure against the disquieting situation. Hidden in a blind spot at Kylene's feet sprouted a prehensile spike of charred stone. Very slowly, the flexible tendril protruded, essentially imperceptible as it spiraled up her left leg, centimeters from her fur. Kylene wasn't entirely certain whether or not she felt it. Her fur did tingle in caution, and even her tail flicked from stimulation of adjacency. However, all that was mistaken for nervousness coursing up her limbs, letting its silent presence extend unknown until its tip leveled with its victim's knees, about where her fur transitioned from black to orange. Suddenly, lightning speed firmly ensnared the vulnerable appendage. A mighty gasp flared her lungs, stifling a horrified scream caught in her throat halfway out, as a harsh instinctive jerk almost pulled muscles. Never in her life had she been so startled. Entertaining zero regard for potential consequences, the fences unconsciously reacted by conjuring a left-handed energy ball to smack into the coiled rock. The spell burst, crumbling the tentacle. Although shrapnel was of some concern, which reflexes didn't consider until after the fact, the spell's explosion posed no threat even if it were pressed directly against her unprotected skin. All living things emitted a frequency known as a magical signature, a spiritual waveform unique as DNA. Magic existed as a manifestation of molding that waveform. Coming into contact with a match would cause an otherwise harmful spell to simply be absorbed into a recipient's body, instead of causing damage from the clash of conflicting signatures as intended. As Kylene reestablished equanimity, the word impressive ruggedly resonated in a low tone reminiscent of the roars, sounding like intelligible speech formed from rocks grinding in fire. The wizard in training defensively stood, ready as possible for being clueless as to the speaker's location. His voice came from all directions. Most don't react so expertly. I pray, for both your sake and my own, that accurately reflects your aptitude. He must be the fire elemental. Dread almost forgot the deadly terrain, redirecting attention to the horrific implication of making a satisfactory meal if she fails. Melting actually sounded rather pleasant compared to that atrocious, albeit fundamentally necessary, alternative. That shift in primary concern fortuitously didn't critically disturb the instinctive cognizance of the cave's natural perils in her legs, their muscles still ready to dodge to memorize safe spots. 30 seconds of empty stillness. Kylene gasped in shameful realization, the sharp inhale of broiling aridity stinging her throat. Please, forgive my rudeness, she humbly requested with a deeply apologetic bow. Stress had lapsed on the mandatory introduction. One needed always politely introduce oneself to an elemental. After all, it was the Chimera's home they were intruding into, so the formality was reckoned as a sign of respect. Originally, the magical beasts felt rather indifferent about the custom. After a few decades, though, it became so recognized and expected, they stopped appearing before people too inconsiderate to oblige. That prior tendril usually struck during introductions, as a test of combat reflexes at the point when a wizard's guard would be at its lowest. Rumors claimed that they may even eat a wizard outright in response to a particularly rude entrance. Kylene's neglect didn't risk consumption. That rumor was only ever entertained when somebody not only failed to provide a proper introduction, but additionally spoke or acted with blatant disrespect. Without knowing that extra condition, nightmarish imagery crept to her mind of turning around in the nick of time to spot a colossal, charging maw, just air being caged inside drooling darkness. Her muscles tensed to repress a shudder. My name, her dry voice nervously cracked, Terrified of the potential repercussions, she convincingly forced a couple of pretend coughs to hide fear's role in interrupting her speech. Her outlook never predicted this would be so frightening. Her heart pounding as inflamed lungs hyperventilated, flooding veins with unbridled horror. Perilous surroundings, uncertainty of so much as Hitza's appearance, escalating paranoia of becoming food, and worry that he frowned upon her faux pas were collectively taking their stressful toll. It was starting to take everything she had to not faint from feverish worry. "Please forgive me," she faltered. I just had a little something in my... "Cease your incessant babbling," the elemental ordered with a tone both strict, yet portraying no sign of offense taken, "and proceed." That pathetically executed apology hit his patience harder than the sum of her absent-mindedness plus that innocent mistake, treating him like a fool unable to see through her facade. The nervous woman nodded, biting her lip to not whimper, giving herself appropriate time to calm down before restarting from the top. "My name is Kylene Starr," a self-branded surname symbolizing all her hopes and dreams, dedicated to the fateful night when she unquestionably realized her life's calling. "Daughter of Cain Lewis, Julia the Fox, and proud pupil of wizard James Smith." Announcing one's parents and teacher weren't originally part of tradition. The elementals requested that information be added a few generations after mandating the procedure, curious about relationships with other pact holders. Kylene briefly paused to swallow for moisture, trying to fend off the risk of her voice cracking again from the heat that, despite its intensity, was oddly taking no real toll on her. "I stand before you today seeking a pact. Will you please honor my presence by accepting my challenge?" Momentary pondering, followed by a bellowing, "Very well." Crackling incessantly of grinding rocks and splattering lava, a section of ground approximately 13 feet in diameter bulged like an inflating balloon, with nary a shake nor crack of the surrounding earth. Taller and taller it grew, until a tube of charcoal and lava that peaked at 10 meters. A painfully loud snap split its vertex, spattering pebbles and lava droplets. The ruggedly cylindrical body then bent to point that opening at its awestruck visitor. The resultant maw grinned toothily, with stone jags arranged like fangs seeping with drooling lava. Above it, two palpebral slates opened to expose emerald reptilian eyes. The towering worm chimera's lava-seeping, agglomerate shell aesthetically matched his volcanic home decor, as if the two were one. As the terrifying monster spoke, his head molded itself into a more draconic shape, adopting more frighteningly distinct features, while the rest of his body remained akin to a serpent with charcoal scales transuding molten rock from hundreds of pores. "I, Hitza, Elemental of Fire, officially accept your challenge." The metal double door at the cave's entrance slammed itself shut and locked tight. Thus concludes Chapter 3. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would like to support me and this channel, then consider heading over to Amazon.com to perhaps purchase the book that we previewed today. Or if you're still uncertain, then look forward to the next chapter.